The rain pounded the cracked windshield of Daniel's old pickup truck, each drop a hammer against the fragile shell of his resolve. It had been 2 years since cancer stole his wife, Sarah, leaving him a hollowed-out man at 42, drowning in grief and unpaid bills. The grocery bag on the passenger seat, containing a single loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a dented can of soup, mocked his empty life. He was heading home to a silent house, where memories of Sarah's laughter haunted every corner, when he saw them, a woman and 5 small children huddled under a flickering streetlight, their cardboard sign bleeding ink in the downpour. Hungry. Please help. 5 kids. Daniel's foot hovered over the gas pedal, but something, perhaps Sarah's voice in his heart, made him stop. Daniel pulled over, his tires splashing through a puddle, and rolled down the window. The woman, drenched and shivering, looked up, her eyes weary but fierce, like a mother bear protecting her cubs. Her clothes were threadbare, a faded jacket barely clinging to her thin frame, and the children ranging from a toddler in her arms to a lanky boy of maybe 10 clung to her, their faces pale and streaked with dirt. "Please, sir," she said, her voice trembling, "anything helps. We haven't eaten since yesterday." Daniel's chest tightened. He'd been hoarding his last $20 for gas, but the sight of the smallest girl, her tiny hands clutching a soaked teddy bear, broke something inside him. He handed her the grocery bag. "It's not much," he muttered, avoiding her gaze. The woman's eyes welled with tears. "Thank you. God bless you." The kids crowded around, tearing into the bread with desperate hands. Daniel drove off, his heart pounding, unsure why he felt both lighter and heavier. The next day, the rain hadn't stopped, and neither had the image of that family burning in Daniel's mind. He'd spent the night tossing in bed, Sarah's gentle voice echoing, "You've always had a big heart, Dan. Use it." He was a carpenter by trade, but work had dried up after he'd spent months at Sarah's bedside, and the bank was threatening foreclosure. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do more. He drove back to the corner, half expecting them to be gone, but there they were, soaked and shivering again. The woman's name, he learned, was Maria. She was 34, a single mom since her husband walked out 3 years ago, leaving her with 5 kids: Lila, 2, Sammy, 5, Emma, 7, Jacob, 9, and Tyler, 10, and no job after the diner she'd worked at shut down. They'd been evicted 2 weeks ago, bouncing between shelters and the street, begging for scraps to survive. Daniel hesitated, then blurted, "Come with me. I've got a garage. It's not much, but it's dry." Maria's eyes widened, suspicion flashing across her face, but the kids' hungry stares softened her. "Okay," she whispered. The drive to his small, run-down house was quiet, the kids packed in the back, their wide eyes taking in the stranger who'd offered them shelter. Daniel's garage was cluttered with tools, sawdust, and memories of projects he'd built with Sarah, but he cleared a space, dragging out old blankets and a space heater. "It's temporary," he said gruffly, but Maria's grateful nod felt like a lifeline. The challenges came fast. Daniel's bank account was nearly empty, and feeding 7 people stretched his meager resources to the breaking point. He scrounged for odd jobs, fixing a neighbor's porch, repairing a fence, while Maria helped clean the house, her hands quick and capable despite her exhaustion. The kids were a whirlwind. Lila cried at night, missing her mom's warmth. Sammy got sick, his cough rattling through the garage, and Tyler, the oldest, was guarded, his eyes daring Daniel to prove he wasn't another man who'd abandoned them. Daniel wrestled with his own demons, grief for Sarah, fear of losing his home, and the weight of responsibility he hadn't signed up for. One night, he snapped when Jacob spilled juice on the floor, yelling, "I can't do this." Maria overheard, her face crumpling, and Daniel felt like a monster. He apologized, but the tension lingered. Days turned to weeks, and small breakthroughs emerged. Maria found a part-time job at a gas station, thanks to a tip from Daniel's neighbor. Daniel taught Tyler and Jacob to sand wood, their hands clumsy but eager, and soon they were helping him build a simple table for a client. Emma drew pictures of flowers and taped them to the garage walls, calling it home, and Sammy's cough eased after Daniel scraped together cash for medicine. Lila started toddling to Daniel, giggling and calling him Dan, melting his guarded heart. But the biggest challenge loomed. The bank sent a final notice: 30 days to pay $5,000 or lose the house. Maria saw the letter and quietly said, "We'll go. You've done enough." Daniel shook his head. "No. We're in this together." Desperate, Daniel poured himself into work, taking every job he could find. Maria chipped in every penny from her shifts, and the kids helped by collecting cans for recycling. One night, exhausted, Maria and Daniel sat on the porch. The rain finally stopped. She told him her story, how she'd fought to keep her kids fed, how she'd prayed for a miracle. "You're our miracle," she said, tears in her eyes. Daniel's throat tightened. "No, Maria. You're mine." He realized he'd been so lost in grief, he'd forgotten how to live until they showed up, needing him as much as he needed purpose. The shock came on a chilly morning 2 weeks later. A client, impressed by Daniel's work, spread the word, and orders for custom furniture flooded in. A local church heard their story and organized a fundraiser, raising $6,000, enough to save the house and buy a used van for Maria. But the real revelation hit Daniel as he watched Tyler and Jacob hammer nails, Emma and Sammy laughing, Lila asleep in Maria's arms. Family wasn't just blood. It was the people you fought for, the ones who pulled you out of the dark. He'd lost Sarah, but he'd gained a reason to keep going. By the end, Daniel and Maria stood side by side, the house safe, the garage transformed into a workshop where the kids learned and laughed. Maria rented a small apartment nearby, but the bond remained: dinners together, the kids' chatter filling the one silent house. Daniel learned that love and loss could coexist, that helping others healed his own wounds. As he waved to the family, their smiles bright in the morning sun, he whispered to Sarah's memory, "I'm okay now." The lesson was clear: in giving, he'd received hope, purpose, and a new kind of family. And for anyone watching, the message rang true: even in your darkest hour, reaching out to lift someone else can lift you, too.